All right, so this came in this week. The review, and this comes from our friends at musictech.com. Shout out to musictech.com for delivering excellent news on music technology and music gear. If you like to read, yes, if you like to read on a website, which is kind of old school now, isn't it? Is that an old school thing to do rather than just listen to this smooth vocal tones of Mr. Emlyn here from Emlyn in the Mix? Just kidding. But musictech.com do deliver good reviews and trustworthy reviews, I would say, when they review gear. And they've just released their review of the Apple Mac Studio, which we spoke about earlier this year when that dropped. That was pretty exciting for studio musicians and musicians alike, because this is a powerhouse. And what's interesting, and we spoke about this when this got released, is this is not even the pro version. They even hinted to the fact that there's going to be a pro version of this, which boggles the mind, because this thing has pro specs. Anyway, Mac Studio dropped, and Music Tech are giving it a 9 out of 10. That is a very good review. So let's see the verdict. The positives here: entry-level spec offers a lot of audio producers in terms of performance, a solid selection of physical ports for all sorts of creatives, runs huge DAW projects without breaking a sweat, and very quiet even under sustained load. And some of the negatives were RAM and SSD upgrades get pricey very fast. Classic Apple. And the fans are quiet, but are more than expected, albeit at a low level. So maybe they were a bit surprised they could even hear fans, because I know that I've got the M1 laptop here, and I've never heard the fan. Maybe I don't push it enough. I mean, I don't do those 50-track DAW projects anyway, but I do run a lot of plugins, and I like to almost work solely in MIDI with the instruments. So I'm running literally a bunch of virtual instruments and plugins, like a lot actually, in my opinion, which I think is a lot. And the M1 handles it no problem. I have not had any breakdowns or CPU crashes at all. And at most, maybe my biggest project in terms of tracks, not that big, maybe 20, but plugin wise, we're probably nearly at like 80 plugins or something like that, like processing and instruments and everything else, and barely any audio, which doesn't use, well, depends on the project, but doesn't use as much RAM as, say, the plugins and the virtual instruments. Anyway, I digress. What I'm saying is that M1 chip is very powerful, perfect for studio musicians. Now, let's just have a quick read of the review here. And if you want to read more of it, you can head over to musictech.com. But a 9 out of 10, pretty good. Choice Award here. Are you going to be getting one? I mean, it is a sexy looking machine. It's not really there for looking at though, because you're going to have your screen, you're going to be in there working on it. It's more about the performance. So I'll just read a little bit back here for you. So in the run up to its launch, Apple kept the Mac Studio under wraps in a way that's almost impossible with its iPhones, and subject as they are to frenzied speculation across the consumer tech press. The Mac Studio, however, is a more creator-focused machine and is therefore relatively niche, even within the Mac lineup. And Mac represents a much smaller slice of Apple's gargantuan profits than the iPhone and the company's service arm. Pro-grade Macs have long been the choice of many creative professionals, and that's something the company is willing to devote considerable resources to maintaining. And that's one thing, of course, that creatives and professionals alike love Apple for, is that they deliver the goods that they want. So the Mac Studio name has arrived with intent. It is the Mac for creative musicians, photographers, filmmakers, designers, and even coders that want the desktop experience with more ports and need to go beyond what the current iMac can do. And although the iMac is a beautiful machine for less demanding users, but tops out at an 8-core standard M1 and 16GB of RAM, the Mac Mini 2 is fine for everyday users, but lacks the grunt the Studio offers. So the Mac Studio starts, and this is in British pounds here because Music Tech is a British company is £2,000 or £1,999 and boasts promising specs. You get the Mac and a power lead, but have to add your own keyboard and mouse or trackpad and screen. Anyway, the review goes on. It's really nicely written, of course, because it always is with with music tech. But check it out. They're giving it a 9 out of 10. And I thought I'd mention that because we broke the news here. We were the first to break. No, we weren't really the first. We spoke about the Mac Studio already. I think it's a desirable music studio machine that would benefit from having something like this if you needed more power, especially if you were the type of person that was running hundreds of plugins inside a project, and especially CPU intensive plugins. This thing's going to help you. It can just chew through it with the M1 chip, especially if everything's running natively, which, as you saw at the start of this podcast, a lot of these software companies are going more and more native, and it's very good to see.